Martin Keown joins us now on LBC News. First things first, Martin, how are you?
Very well, very busy actually. It's the football is back upon us. Everybody wants a piece of you at the moment, particularly after last night, Arsenal losing a game against Man City. I thought it was a good game actually. So we're all back in action and coming out of this sort of slumber that we've been in since the lockdown.
You mentioned Arsenal, Martin. I just want to ask about last night. As a defender yourself, it wasn't the best result for Arsenal. They're going to have to do a lot better on Saturday. What can Arsenal hope to achieve this season? Is there any chance of the top four for Arteta?
I don't think so. I don't believe that it's there. I think the problem is, and I was really hoping without fans in the stadium, away from home, we could have been a bit better last night. This is a very good City team, though, Liverpool and Man City, streets ahead of everybody else. But long before David Luiz made those mistakes last night, you could see that he wasn't quite right, wasn't reacting to danger. There was two or three very good saves from the goalkeeper, Leno, I thought was quite magnificent last night. And he wasn't in the right kind of mental state, so it seems, to have played a game of football last night. I know he came out and he apologised for his performance. And I don't want to humiliate the man any further, really, because he was brave enough to do that. But it's about a new beginning for Arsenal now, and choosing the right sort of defenders to go forward. And I think David Luiz won't be a part of that future, I'm afraid to say, because I know how much he probably loves the club. He's only been there a short while, but it's time for change now, and that really underlined it last night. There was no camouflaging last night of any of the weaknesses that exist. We all know they're there, and Arteta, as good a manager, coach he is, going forward, he has to solve the defence first before he goes anywhere.
And staying with Arsenal, you obviously spoke quite heavily about David Luiz. We also saw from Mari, of course, the other centre-back. I mean, do you think, we've spoken about this for so many years, and I imagine you're probably tearing your hair out at the number of times you've spoken about Arsenal's defensive crisis. But, is this perhaps as bad as you've known it?
I think we know that the problem is there. It's really having about the mobility from the defenders that we have. And I think Mario was kind of caught out for pace a little bit. Okay, it's Walker running at you. But nonetheless, he has come a long way to get there, and he should be able to deal with that. Looked like he picked up a strain in his lower leg. I'm not sure if it was hamstring, calf. That might, I don't know, scupper any kind of like permanent move to Arsenal. So I think that Arteta knows he's got his work cut out, but it's about defending as a team. I think the Arsenal back four, or whoever that was, used to get a lot of credit, but it was the work done by the players in front of them. They were the barricade, and it's the information to those players to get them into position early. If you work early, you work less. And it's like that organisation needs to be right, and that needs to be put in place. Otherwise, we're not going to be in games long enough to win games. And that was really what happened last night. It looked good at times. I thought the youngsters looked good. Saka playing in his proper position. Aubameyang, we didn't see enough of him. I felt maybe he should be playing down the middle. So we're kind of like, it was difficult though. 2 early injuries. Been no football for 2 or 3 months, so maybe been a bit harsh, but you have to be harsh if you want to get to the top. Some big decisions have to be made by the manager now.
Martin, let's touch on the first game that obviously kicked off the Premier League again. We had Aston Villa versus Sheffield United, and that caused quite a lot of controversy because of the decision where the ball crossed the line, quite clearly crossed the line based on shots we're seeing today. Are you quite concerned that there seems to be VAR is not going to play a prominent part in the second half of the season when it played such a big part and was such a big talking point in the first?
Well, I don't know why VAR wasn't able to intervene. That was a real mystery. And Hawkeye, as I understood it, that it was able to see through players and see through the goalpost to kind of make that decision. So I think the referee last night it was one of those situations when I think it's an example to him. Don't rely too much on all the sort of supports that you've got around you, and then maybe go and look at the screen again. If he felt there was something wrong, I think, why couldn't he go to look at the pitch side monitor? The players have said that they think it's over the line. There's a feeling in the ground that it's happened. And because we want the right result, and the ball crosses the line is imperative. Hawkeye's been brilliant up to now, and clearly something was wrong. I'm not sure we're getting the complete truth, and that was the reason, because when it was explained to us, we were told in the past it would actually have the ability to work out where the ball might be, even if there were people in the way of it. So there we are. We'll have to trust their explanation for what was really could be disastrous for Sheffield United.
And at the start of the game, Martin, of course, as soon as kick-off started at 6 o'clock, players from both sides took the knee almost instantaneously. I think people were taken aback in a positive way by that. What did you make of that particular action?
I think football has done really well since we've had this break in football, and it's come back a better place. This discrimination and racism, we don't want it in our lives. We don't want it in football. And football is really sort of using its platform now to demonstrate how we should behave. So I think it's been brilliant. It's really symbolic to see this happening. Of course, we want to rid ourselves of racism everywhere, not just, in football, everywhere within our communities, our society. But football now is leading the way, and I'm really proud to see that and to be able to say that now.
As a football pundit, Martin, of course, we're noticing quite a few on-field changes, in terms of players spitting. They've got labelled water bottles and the like. I imagine the game for pundits is also going to change somewhat because you've got the 2-metre distancing rule and various kind of bits and pieces that go with that. I mean, do you think that's going to change punditry in a way? It seems to be. Is there that kind of instant connection and the way you bounce off other people at BT Sport?
I think so. I mean, I can't watch a game now without critiquing the commentators. Do they talk too much? Do they not talk enough? Is the commentator sounding like a co-commentator? All of these things come into my mind, and I think by and large they did a good job last night. It's a fine balance, really. It's not everybody likes something different. I don't like to hear too much of the commentator or the co-commentator. I like a game to flow, but then it may be a feeling because there's no action, there's no crowd noise, that you're going to have to talk a little bit more. So it's a difficult balance, and you're going to have to find the drama. Not from the noise or the crowd, you're going to have to find it from somewhere else. But if you truly love football, I think you can convey that. And you have to still convey that excitement of being in the stadium, because ultimately we're very privileged when we go to these games. And that excitement has to come through in your voice. What I'm also looking forward to at the weekend is to be a part of what's Pioneer TV, really, for BT Sport. The very first 3 o'clock Premier League fixture, live on TV. So that's going to be very exciting to be a part of that. Of course, it's there to protect the lower leagues teams. We don't want 3 o'clocks particularly to come back. But in this situation, it's great. I think people will hoping to get a huge audience for that one. And it really is the first one we've ever seen.
And you can watch it with or without crowd noise, can't you? How did you watch it last night, Martin? Did you choose to opt with the crowd noises?
I went without because I just feel that I wanted to critique the commentators and see how they would cope with those silences. So, and it just feels false. It's just it's background noise, and it doesn't really react to the action. So for me, I don't want anything artificial. I want to be able to see exactly what I'm getting, and that's why I turned off the sound.
Coronavirus has had an impact, particularly on the lower leagues, and in non-league football we've seen clubs sadly going into administration. They'll perhaps never open their doors again to fans who followed those clubs for years. What do you kind of make of the impact that coronavirus has had on both the Premier League and those lower clubs as well?
Well, the Premier League is stable enough and financially wealthy enough to survive this, but the lower leagues, you really feel for them because the shop front, so to speak, is not open. There's no money coming in, and it's crippling. And local communities are really reliant upon these, and the local businesses for their football clubs. So, I hope they get the support that they need. Ultimately, I think we're going to see a lot of players go out of the game. I think if a player's contract's in doubt, there's an injury around, they won't be getting new contracts. Only the very best players will survive this at lower league level. And it will be a real trimming and resetting of the wages, and maybe caps for wages might have to come in. So we've got some really difficult times ahead of us for sure.